Welcome to Animania Chronicles, where we dive deep into the captivating worlds of anime, dissecting stories, unraveling characters, and sharing our passion for all things animated. Hey everyone, welcome back to our review series on the Eminence in Shadow. In Part 4, we dive even deeper into the story as our protagonist continues to conceal his true strength while navigating the complexities of his new world. Stay tuned for more exciting developments and unexpected twists. Suddenly, Cherry appeared at Alexia's door, and Alexia asked if she wanted to come into the room. Alexia learned that Cherry likes to drink her coffee with sugar, and she enjoyed the sweet coffee. Then Alexia wondered why Cherry came to visit her. Cherry asked about the relationship status between Alexia and Sheed. Alexia told her that they broke up and Cherry was very happy. This is how Alexia found out that Cherry had feelings for Sheed and had been given chocolate as a gift. Alexia was shocked to hear the news and Cherry thanked her for the coffee. 5 days passed and Sheed was allowed to go back to school. Nothing changed in his life and he secretly trained his grip strength. Suddenly, school council president Rose showed up in his classroom and she was surprised to see him again. Then we see the cult of Diablos and one of the core members activated a magical artifact. The Migger school was enveloped in a mysterious barrier and Sheed noticed that something was wrong. Alexia was also allowed to go back to school and she wondered why the school was locked down. She discovered that the employee in charge had been killed. Meanwhile, she found out that he could use magic and he wondered if the other students sensed it. She'd heard footsteps and masked thugs appeared posing as members of Shadow Garden. They said they would take over the school, but student council Rose refused. Following this, the enemy began to attack her, but Rose couldn't control her magic. As a result, the enemy was able to defeat her and she was almost killed. At the last moment, Sheed played the typical background character and sacrificed his life to save Rose. Rose couldn't believe that Sheed had sacrificed his life for her and she was horrified. The reason Sheed sacrificed his life was because he wanted to prove that he was the perfect background character. Suddenly, Rose cried and she thought that Sheed sacrificed his life because he loves her. Following this, Rose was ordered to surrender and she was grateful that Sheed saved her life. Later, all the students were gathered in the auditorium and they served the criminals as hostages. She was an overpowered main character and he secretly revived himself by infusing magic into his heart. As a result, he successfully managed to revive himself and was proud that he was able to use his background character technique, 10-minute heartbreak. Afterwards, he realized that his magic was still affected, but he somehow managed to use magic. Then we see Cherry, and she found out more about the cult of Diablo's magical artifact. Cherry didn't notice that they were being attacked at school by criminals, and Rex appeared in the room. Rex introduced himself and said that he planned to take the pendant with him because his boss demanded it. Following this, he intended to kill Cherry, but Vice Commander Glenn fended off his attack. He was impressed that his opponent was able to block his attack even without magic. Then Rex learned that he was fighting Glenn, the Vice Commander of the Crimson Order, and Marco ordered Cherry to run away. Meanwhile, Sheed observed the situation and discovered that the knights outside were trying to break the barrier. He liked the event and planned to prepare for his performance as Eminence of Shadow, but one thing bothered him because the criminals didn't dress aesthetically. He complained that black clothes were his style and he got angry. Then he started killing some of the criminals and he used his slime as a sniper to take out the enemies. Then Sheed discovered that there was a pink-haired girl in the building and he knew that Cherry was an innocent girl. So he decided to help her and he eliminated the enemy. Cherry was planning to go to her father's office and she was looking forward to his appearance as Shadow of Eminence. Then Cherry remembered Rex's words and she wanted to solve the mystery of the artifact. She protected her from the shadows and she didn't realize that many enemies discovered her. Then she continued walking and she stumbled when she reached a staircase. At the last moment, she caught her and gave her the artifact. Cherry was worried because he was injured, but he said he was fine. She later realized that Cherry was the main character of this story arc, and he decided to assist her as a background character. Suddenly, she found a book, and she learned that the artifact is called Eye of Vegapunk, which has the ability to block magic. She told Sheed that the user can program the frequency so that allies can continue to use magic. Additionally, she said that a person with infinite risk could still use magic despite being activated. Suddenly, Cherry said that she got a plan to deactivate the enemy's artifact. She told him that they need to get close enough to the enemy and that there is a tunnel under the school. Unfortunately, She didn't have the tools to decode the artifact, but she'd offered to get her the tools. Meanwhile, Rex reported that knights have gathered outside the school. His boss wasn't interested in the knights and was angry because Rex couldn't get the artifact. Before he went off, he warned his boss that some members had been defeated. Afterwards, Rex went to look for Cherry, but his allies disappeared. He was confused and she'd appeared in front of him. Suddenly, Rex was attacked and he activated his special ability. He was sure that no one could defeat him in his magical barrier, but he had no chance against Sheed, so he was attacked and Rex didn't have time to react. When he was in a schoolroom, he realized that Sheed was playing with him and he didn't understand what happened. Finally, Sheed appeared out of nowhere and finished him off. A short time later, we see Nu, and she discovered the defeated Knights of the Crimson Order. Nu sensed a person and she was surprised to see her master Shadow. She was told that only the 7 shadows were able to fight and Gamma was the only one present who unfortunately had no combat skills. But Gamma suspected that they would soon be able to use magic again, and Nu said that they would remain on standby without an order from Shadow. Then Nu helped her master find all the tools, and he told her that he plans to neutralize an artifact. Nu was surprised to learn about the artifact, and she admired Master Shadow. Meanwhile, Iris and her knights were ready to rescue the students. Shadow Garden secretly observed the situation to wait for Shadow's orders. Then we see Cherry, and she was trying to decode the artifact to save everyone. A short time later, Cherry managed to decode the magical artifact. Following this, Cherry showed him a secret way to the auditorium of the school, and he was excited to enter the tunnel. Before they entered the tunnel, Cherry remembered when her mother was murdered in front of her. She hadn't known Leather was the murderer, and he told her that he was a good friend of her mother. Additionally, he offered her to live with him, and she was grateful that he had treated her like a daughter. She cheered Cherry up and said that her father would definitely be safe. Meanwhile, a student planned to attack the leader, but Rose understood that they had no chance against the enemies. Suddenly, everyone heard a loud noise, but Cherry didn't give up and tried to save everyone. The reason for this was that a student was shot by the enemies. Some students feared they would all die, but Rose said they needed to stay calm. Meanwhile, Cherry arrived at the auditorium, and she was shocked to see the students dying in front of her. She discovered the enemy's magical artifact and activated her own to save her father. At that moment, the barrier was dissolved and Rose immediately attacked an enemy to steal his weapon. All the students began to overwhelm the enemies, and the leader ordered his followers to kill the students. We then see that Rose planned to eliminate the leader before she ran out of mana. She tried to get to the leader, but many assassins stopped her. Suddenly, she remembered a masked boy in her past, and she started to smile. After this, Shadow showed up. He got Riz, and Rose was surprised by his beautiful performance. He said that they are Shadow Garden, and his members said that they hunt from the shadows. So his organization's counterattack began, and the enemies had no chance against Shadow Garden. Shadow noticed that the enemy was planning to escape, and he planned to pursue them. Following this, the auditorium began to burn and Gamma watched them on the roof. Shadow already suspected that the enemy leader caused the fire and he disappeared. However, Iris learned that the enemies were defeated and she immediately ran to the school. She asked Rose about the situation and learned that Shadow Garden had defeated the enemies. Then we see Cherry in the tunnel and she was trying to find her father. Meanwhile, the leader of the enemy was in a room in the school building. He burned important documents and she knew that Leather was inside the costume. Leather wondered how he found out his identity and he replied that he recognized him by his movements. Suddenly, she asked why a talented swordmaster would join an evil organization. He said he was suffering from an illness and learned that an artifact had the potential to cure him. That's how he met Cherry's mother, but Cherry's mother thought the artifact was dangerous and refused to activate it. As a result, he decided to murder her, and he knew that Cherry was just as smart as her mother. She learned that Leather was only taking advantage of Cherry, but he believed that he had also desired a power to become the strongest one. Suddenly, Sheed said that they had talked enough and they should start fighting. He intentionally lost the fight against Leather to prove his talent as a background character. Then he returned to the room as Shadow and Leather had no idea that Sheed was actually Shadow. Leather activated the magical artifact and he thought he would become the Red Power Ranger. Unfortunately, he was wrong and the magical artifact turned him into an ugly monster. Leather began to attack Shadow with his new power, but he was able to withstand his attacks with ease. So he decided to get serious, but Shadow showed him his overwhelming power. Luther didn't give up, and he was shocked to face a real monster. Then he said that Shadow Garden's reputation was destroyed, but his organization operated in the shadows like Batman from the start. In the end, Luther was stabbed several times by Shadow, and he looked down on his weak opponent. He ended the fight and destroyed the dangerous artifact. Afterwards, Cherry showed up, and she was shocked to see her dead father lying on the ground. Shadow didn't tell her the truth about her father and knew she would hate him. A few days later, a bounty was placed on Shadow and his organization. Alpha already suspected that Shadow played the villain to protect the world out of the shadows, and they admired their leader. Then we see Sheet at school, and Cherry wanted to see him again to say goodbye. She thanked him for his help and told him that she planned to leave the country. Sheet wished her good luck in Logos, and she wished that she could have gotten to know him better. Before she left, Sheet asked her what goal she was pursuing, and she said it is a secret. Then Cherry left the Midgar Kingdom, and he knew that she planned to take revenge on Shadow. Since the school was half destroyed, summer break started earlier and most of the students went home. She decided to stay in the capital and hide from his sister because he planned to hunt criminals from the shadows in the capital. Later, he received a letter from Alpha, and he learned that his next mission will be in the sacred land of Lindworm. That's it for today. Stay tuned for part 5 of our The Eminence in Shadow review series. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the vast realms of anime. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned for more thrilling reviews and discussions. Until next time, keep exploring the boundless wonders of anime with us.